In today's episode of the Pathway Presents podcast, I have a very interesting guest here with me today. I'm with Phillip Oakley, and he's hailing over from the team at Sales Factory. He's the Vice President of Brand Strategy, and Sales Factory is a retail-focused agency that basically, supports a data-driven approach to help brands to get out there. They're a data-driven marketing and consumer research organization, and basically, and that's actually quite, in a way, I would say even unique in the market. It's been around since 1984. So today we're going to be really deep diving into the growth of the company, and I'm pleased to get to know Phillip as well. So Phillip, welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks for having me, Lucas. Thank you.
Of course. So maybe give us a quick overview. What is Sales Factory all about in your own words?
Well, I think you've nailed it. It's a data-driven marketing agency at its core. So we do a lot of things from our own in-house research to the actual strategy work, marketing and brand strategy, to activation, right? To, the creative or whatever type of placement we need to do. And then ultimately understanding how to create that cycle, right? Learn from what we've done, stay agile enough to continue to push and grow. And what really makes this interesting, and you touched base on this a little bit, retail since 1984, there was no internet in 1984 and everything was brick and mortar. Now we had catalog work, right? We had a lot of things that we take for granted now, or we say that's old school, we don't worry about it. But what's ultimately, if you step back and look at strategic work and the psychology of understanding human beings who are actually purchasing, the more things change, the more they remain the same. It's really easy to point at Amazon and go, yeah, but everything's changed. E-com has changed. Well, Amazon understands that they also want to have brick and mortar locations, right? We now have Amazon Go. We now have Whole Foods where we can actually pick up and drop off merchandise. So ultimately what it comes down to is understanding that consumer. Because if you understand the consumer, you understand the brand, right? Consumers don't want to be shoehorned into buying from any specific channel. They just want to buy when it's convenient for them to buy. And so what we're really good at is understanding the target audience, understanding what they're interested in, understanding what they're going to buy. We go as far as even pricing strategies at retail. And we've gone as far as, and we can talk about this more, we've gone as far as actually helping our clients invent and produce new products within a category because it wasn't being fulfilled by a competitor. But ultimately, when you understand the consumer, you can get that far and do amazing things. And it doesn't matter if you're selling DTC, e-com, brick and mortar, or if selling through social media.
And what would you say, just for people to get sort of a really a grab on that? What types of organizations do you work with? Like, what's a typical company, sort of in size and an industry where you'd say that is actually a great fit for Sales Factory?
So we have a pretty good mix. So I'll take a step back and go back in history again. Our business was founded. The founder of our business came from the tool industry. So actually came from I'm trying not to name the company, sorry, but let's just say came from small appliances and power tools, right? Mm-hmm. And so there was a lot of just a lot of industry knowledge there that's continued through the company. So we work with a lot of home improvement retailers. So Home Depot and Lowe's have actually been our clients, but ultimately anyone who's trying to get into a Home Depot or Lowe's, anything you want to get on the shelf or on one of those .coms, that's our sweet spot. So if you think about like a bullseye, like a dartboard, that is our dead bullseye. I will go as far as to say there isn't another agency in North America, at least, but we've worked globally. We have clients in Australia. If you want to be at the center of that bullseye, you would have a hard time finding someone who can beat us. And we'll even talk about keeping score in a moment if you'd like to. I'll come back and we'll talk about our winning percentage. So that being said, there's so many basics that go into understanding retail properly. We've also, had many relationships that pushed into Walmarts and Targets, auto parts stores. So retail is really our sweet spot. Now, we still have some B2B clients because they've seen what we've done for other brands. They like our approach of truly being data-driven and understanding the target audience, which it doesn't matter if you're, B2B or B2C. It's really about the target audience and how you can fulfill that need. And then making sure you're building a brand they're willing to connect to and make sure it's in a price point they're willing to pay for it. That is where we're really good. But zooming straight in, it's really home improvement retail, and backing out, we are a fantastic retail agency. Mm-hmm. Basically, that's where Sales Factory comes from. Your whole goal is to sell, and that's what we do.
That makes sense. How do you think people, business owners, entrepreneurs, founders, basically folks that, work with you guys or marketers even themselves, how do they learn about Sales Factory? Like, what's their journey of learning about you guys, hearing about you guys, and then, getting started?
Yeah, going back to how that's changed over the years. In the past, it was actually going to those trade shows because ultimately we would take our clients to a trade show, right? So we would be in the trade show, we would be at a show that had different types of materials, and we'd have those conversations. Oh, this is fantastic. Oh, you guys are the agency. I need this. I need this understanding. And now, as the world has changed, borders have dropped, and the world's gotten bigger. Understanding what's online is key. And I would say that it's something that we are getting better at and have a strategic plan to grow at. A place that Pathmark plays in obviously is understanding how people are finding you. When we started really focusing on that and understanding, we're really surprised at how many larger brands that we've never talked to before are now hitting our website because of the content we're creating. Mm-hmm. And taking some of our own medicine, right? We truly understand our target audience's pain point, and we're out there answering those questions with our content. It's a long game, but it's ultimately going to work. We're seeing a lot of responses from that.
Yeah, I was actually about to ask, like, where do you see sort of the role of the website and the content now, and how do you see that even changing moving forward? What's your take on that?
Sure. So this is my personal take. Content is like a library, right? You've got these library shelves without walls. The more books you put on those shelves, the more people you're going to attract to those volumes. The more people come in to look for one volume, they might find another volume they like. Our shelves were a little bare a few years ago. And now we're working very hard to make sure that we're filling different types of shelves and different categories and different parts of the library. And now we're just starting to get to the point where we're strategically trying to force and distribute that content in front of the right type of people, and use a little bit of social selling as well to make sure that we understand it. We understand your pain point. Literally, here's some value. You don't have to buy a thing. Use this. It'll help your business.
Very cool. No, that gives us a good understanding sort of the journey of people getting to know you guys and getting through the digital channels as well. Phil, what can people expect when working together with Sales Factory? If we sort of we learned about the journey and the website and so on, but what can they expect when getting started with Sales Factory?
Sure. So we have something called the 4-part process, and a lot of agencies have their proven processes. Ours specifically starts with truly understanding the target audience, knowing the consumer, right? That's research-based. Now, there's a lot of people who say they're data-driven, and they'll pull from information, right? They'll go out and they'll buy reports, and they'll pull some of the same surveys from some of the same services anyone can. The difference with Sales Factory is actually rolling up our sleeves and getting into the meat of it. And so that means we've actually been in the retail stores. We've actually been in the manufacturing plants. We've actually held the different pieces of information and the physical things that need to be built to produce not just the right campaign, but ultimately help the clients find the right business model sometimes. In other words, like I said, we've created some actual physical new products for our clients that fit a need. Ultimately, it's going to come down to not just creating creative for the sake of creative. It's going to be following that process of knowing the consumer, knowing the challenge, breaking the boredom barrier with creative, and then actually going out and learning from everything we've done. So if anything, we are going to help our target audience understand their consumers and their categories better than any other agency.
Very cool. As we slowly approaching, the end of the interview, I would love to switch gears a little bit and talk a little bit about your journey in business and growth. At first, I'm curious. There's so much content out there. We spoke about content actually a bit, and even in your role and content specific to brand strategy. There's a whole lot of stuff out there. Like, where do you personally like to educate yourself? Is there any sort of places? Books, individuals, where do you get high quality information?
Yeah, sure.
About the noise?
That's a great question. So I love to read, and I typically have 2 or 3 books going at a time. Mm-hmm. And depending on what time of day it is, there's some books I can't read before bed, as you will, and I try to do a little reading at lunchtime each day too. That's typically something I'm going to read more with a highlighter. And then audiobooks as well. But as far as like engaging with people, I absolutely love Twitter and LinkedIn. And so Twitter gives me the opportunity to have very casual conversations with people from all over the world. I for some reason, a lot of the people I talk to are in Europe, especially in the UK area, plenty in Australia as well. But just you get outside of these little barriers we see here, not just in our specific verticals that we're working in, not just in the industries we work with, not just in my geographic footprint, but I'm watching people in Germany have the same problems that we have here in the US. Right. And so I get to learn about how they're tackling things as well. At the same time on LinkedIn, which is, I view LinkedIn as not just a networking opportunity. I see it totally as a social media channel. It's an opportunity for me to go out and take what I've learned and just write about it. And I just love the creative process of writing and telling a story around something that I may have done 20 years ago or something that I've experienced recently, and then trying to challenge myself to pull the brand lesson out of each of those stories. And we can all relate to those things. And instead of, trying to put out we call it the fortune cookie wisdom, here's a one-liner that everyone should retweet or, share. It's more like, here's what I'm experiencing. I hope there's some value in it for you. And it's funny how many people engage with that and can really relate to it.
No, I mean, I can see, your profile is getting actually very nice engagements from your comments and insights on LinkedIn. Very cool. I got some rapid fire questions to wrap it up for today. What is the last book you read or listened to, for that matter?
The last book. So I'm currently re-listening to How Brands Grow by Byron Sharp. So I'm a brand guy. And then there's a lot of brand people who are going to tell you it's all about consumer love, and it's all about, creating a tribe. And I fully believe some of that to a tier, right? There's fast moving consumer goods. No one cares. If they don't have your toothpaste or it's more expensive than the next thing, you might buy a different toothpaste. Your automobile, where you've invested more energy into actually selecting a car, it's becoming part of your identity, that's different too. Like you're more likely to actually develop brand loyalty there. I set that up because brand loyalty exists in a gray area, and the way Byron Sharp preaches it, and the reason I think it's really important to listen to people with, I think it's really important to have conversation with people who don't have the same ideas you do. So that way you get outside your own head, you drop your blinders, whatever metaphor you want to use, you can actually see things from different perspectives. And the way Byron Sharp explains brand loyalty is more along the lines of, is it easier for me to buy it? Is the price point the right place? Have you kept me aware of it? Have you kept me, have you just dripped on me enough to make sure the advertising in front of me so that when I'm ready to buy, I'm ready to buy. They go into a lot of case studies, even like going back to cars. And the reason I use that is, to me, I've bought the same model car over and over and over, not the same model, the same brand car over and over and over again, multiple times in my life. So I've considered myself a brand loyalist at the time. But what Byron Sharp shared was completely about the data is only 50% of people buy that same car again. So you've only got, it doesn't matter what you drove and what you loved, when you're in the market for another car, the stats say that brand has 1 in 2 chance of keeping you in their car. And that to me is, to me, it's mind-numbing, because I know so many people who bought the same car after same car, the BMWs or Volkswagens or whatever that is. But statistically, they're just as likely to buy a Toyota next time, no matter how many Volkswagens they bought. And so that's really something to sit back and listen to and understand facts. You can't argue with facts. It doesn't matter how much we feel about something, right? And I think that's something that Byron really delivers, is some real world medicine for those of us who really want to sell emotions.
Very, very cool. For our next question, what's the one thing that your company is focused on the most at the moment?
That's a good question too. How much to reveal, right? So something on as far as a service to our clients is helping them understand how to grow the brand across all retail channels. And so Amazon is a place where some brands feel like they don't have to play, right? We're watching some brands, and I won't name a category specifically, but we're watching some brands that, it's a large company and they're selling, at retail, they're selling multiple retailers, they're selling at their own e-com channels, and they're completely ignoring Amazon on purpose. It's not part of their strategy. And what we're warning is, what you don't realize is there's small startups who don't have the brand presence you do. They're much smaller. And because they're going Amazon first, they are aware the buyers are, which is ultimately knowing your consumer, right? And so they instead of getting into Amazon as well and understanding how to sell at full capacity at every possible channel where the consumer is, by ignoring that one channel of Amazon, they're losing share, and they're losing future share if we talk about brand, right? The future purchases to brands that are really hyper focused on where the consumers are when they want to buy. And so Amazon's a channel that we're really trying to guide some larger brands how to understand, but also we're managing that, because you can't just put it out there and they'll buy it. It has to have its own type of ad campaigns, its own type of intelligence, its own type of reporting. So I think that's a place where understanding how to sell to consumers on all those different retail channels at the same time is really vital.
Very cool. Very last question. If we go back to the days of the Western Carolina University, right, to do a bit of time travel. Now,
sure.
You head out of formal education into the world of brand and growth and marketing. What's the one advice you would give for your journey?
What would I give my younger self? That's a good question, Lucas. I think it is. I started my career in design, and then moved through design to understanding, accounts and strategy and copy, and then moved into actual, well, I won't call it data, I'll call it math. If I could tell my younger self anything, it is that, how important math and engineering and spreadsheets are to proper marketing, when it's really easy to get drawn to the beautiful art and design and sexy commercials. Ultimately, if you don't understand the numbers, if you don't understand how to put that in front of the right people, then it's not going to make as big an impact as you want. And so I think I'd like to go combine the high-end math classes with my high-end design classes.
Very cool. So I appreciate you took the time with us today to be a guest on Pathfind Presents. I want to give you the very last word. If somebody would be forgetting all that we discussed about Sales Factory, what's the one thing they should remember?
Know the consumer, and you'll know the brand.
Thanks a lot for being a guest on Pathfind Presents.
Thanks, Lucas.